Good
Okay.
evening, and welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the Think Show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so called African American didn't find their way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous One. But it's some Africans that still believe that. And tonight we're going to talk about them and talk about some of the shenanigans that they're doing here in America and making not only themselves look bad, but trying to make everybody else look bad because I think they feel looking bad by themselves is not cool. We're going to talk about some things that some of these African Americans are doing, and all you got to do is think, y'all. I mean, it ain't that hard to see what these people are doing, and they don't see this stuff yet. Joining me always are the Acmacs from the Eastern Shore of Virginia, Miss Lisa Cypress and
Hey.
Naomi Cypress. Lisa, what's going on?
Caillou, thank you for having us. Appreciate you.
No,
Happy to
I
be
think
here.
this is a situation that I mean, really, we're too far along in the game for us not to see this stuff. Everybody's talking about it, but the
People are
black.
wanting to double down on the ignorance.
Could you explain why
Double
and
down
why?
on ignorance.
Could you explain why and why this is happening?
It pays. Ignorance pays.
So what's going
That's all
on?
I got to say. The elite oligarchy or whatever the oligarchy, they are, they pay for the ignorance, right? So if you're able to effectively create dissension, confusion, and somehow stall or stop the progress of the indigenous people from finding out who they are, there's money in that. There's compensation for that. It pays to promote ignorance.
So what are these
Hmm.
ignorant? I don't want to say the words.
Promoters,
People get mad.
promoters,
Uh, I
ignorant
had another word.
promoters.
I had another
Oh,
word,
oh.
but we'll go with promoters. I mean, they don't see what they're up against now when their own masters turn their back on them.
I think that they feel like they're winning in the game, and I feel like they think that um you know niggas they don't respect other people that look like them, so they feel like whatever we are going towards, it ain't gonna work. Whatever we believe, it ain't gonna work out for us, so they always feel like it's always best to bet on white. That's what these coons do. That's how they
That's
feel.
basically what it boils down to. No, and it's not us that they have
Yeah.
no respect for. It's themselves.
Uh-huh.
Because I got sent a meme today or whatever it is, this old
Yeah.
dude just
Mm.
on Africa like it was the thing to do and wasn't making no sense. And you
Mm.
can start to see that the young people that they're talking to, they're looking at him like he's
Uh-huh.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They stay stuck on these old narratives that didn't work then, don't work
Nope.
now, and won't work in the future. Could you tell us the story about what
Facts.
happened with the Smithsonian that you were talking about earlier?
Yes, let me share it with you. I'm glad you mentioned that. Funny you should mention it. So, what had happened was I happened to be like, I put my phone down, and all of a sudden the AI popped out, started talking to me. And first of all, she started talking to me in a British voice. In fact, she sounded like a British African. But I won't get into that. But yes, I will. I said it anyway. I already got into it. So I said to her, why do you sound like that? I'm trying to sound very clear and a very positive voice that appeals to people. I said, that doesn't appeal to me. I want to hear a male Negro, an American Negro male. That's what I want to hear. I can't be racially changed like that. Why? You sound like a British person. Why can't you be a Negro? That's a man. That's not what it's the program. I was like, okay, whatever. So I said, well, tell me about the Smithsonian. How do I find artifacts? Because there's got to be artifacts for the Academic, and where would I find them, and who has them hidden? Well, they could be in museums in in the area of Virginia, or they could be in the Smithsonian. I was like, well, you could try, to get the repair. I said, but I've contacted Smithsonian. They're very hard to get in contact with. They don't have good numbers. You can't email nobody. They're very hard to reach. I know that might be frustrating and difficult, but I said people try. I said, has anybody had to try to sue them? Yes, there has been a lawsuit. Oh, please tell me about this lawsuit. It was in 2022. So I look it up, or she tells me, look it up. She tells me about it. That is Deidria Farmer Peliman. And the Restitution Study Group sought injunctive relief and later a temporary restraining order to prevent the Smithsonian Institute from repatriating a portion of its collection of artifacts known as the Benin bronzes to a national museum in Nigeria. Plaintiffs alleged that the transferring of 29 of the 39 Benin bronzes in the Smithsonian's collection would exceed its authority, breach the Smithsonian trust with the people of the United States and the U.S. citizens of West African descent, and unjustly enrich the receiving museum. The court denied the temporary restraining order, finding that the plaintiffs were unlikely to succeed on their claims because they lacked standing. How do they lack standing, y'all? They lack standing because they ain't Africans. Because the Smithsonian nor did the judge think that these Negroes were African enough to claim the statues. They ain't them. You ain't them, dummy. She probably still don't get it. She probably still don't understand why she lost the suit. You lost the suit because you ain't no Nigerian, idiot. They returned them to Nigeria. The case must be dismissed as moot. It has nothing.
So when you find out that Christmas isn't real, that New Year's isn't real, that all this stuff that you were taught basically is a lie, isn't there something in you that should change with the times? Why do it seem like we just keep going with it no matter what nobody says? It's kind of like we don't grow on purpose. We don't learn on purpose, or we don't try to pass down things to the generations coming behind us. We want to keep them stuck where they are. None of that African stuff hasn't worked. The Africans coming over here don't claim you. You got to be out of your mind to believe that wind ship driven boats, not ships, boats came over here across the Atlantic during that time. Shouldn't things like that enter your mind or have you thinking different?
Sure should.
Why isn't that never the case?
We
And
don't
it's
want
like you say, we just double down on it. It makes no sense. I mean, that's just not with the African thing. That's all with the church, everything. Is it really that hard to change your mind? I mean, you change men and women like socks.
mm,
You change everything if you don't like it. Stuff like that. What I mean, it seems like it's simple to me. What am I missing?
people are slow. It's slow.
I mean, is it that? Because I'm starting to think it's something other than that. Because if you tell me something and I'm doing something and you tell me something that is totally opposite of what I've been thinking and doing, I'm gonna do my best to change.
This sister believes that she's an African American. Therefore, she believes she really is an African. So she was willing to put herself in a lawsuit against the Smithsonian because Smithsonian said these are the bronze statues of Benin. They belong to the Nigerians. This bitch was that, excuse me, I want to call her a bitch. This woman was that sure of her identity as an African that she was like, no, as an African American, this is my culture. And it's Miss Snowden and the judge said, this ain't your culture, ho. And they took them damn 30 statues and sent them to Nigeria. The end.
So shouldn't she be proud that that happened? And shouldn't she go? She should be the one to take the statues back.
No, because she believes they belong with her African ass, because she right African in here. Her own people. Here's the thing. If you let your damn family get sex trafficked and slave trafficked, okay? And they being in this other country catching hell for all this time, and you didn't try to save them. You didn't send no rescue rangers. You didn't put out no daggone signals. You didn't daggone send no daggone care packages. You didn't even say, let me get you a daggone nice dashiki since you've been here all this time away from the family. You ain't done nothing. You ain't done nothing. So now there's a question of, should we take these head pieces or whatever they are back, sculptures back to Nigeria, or keep them with our trafficked family that have undergone so much trauma and drama? Your family don't even give a shit enough to let you keep a statue. Because push come to shove, Nigeria could say, no, let it stay with our kinfolk in America. That's our people there. Right? That's another opportunity. They could have
That
said,
would get
oh, let it stay with our African brothers and sisters over there. We good. We got all the damn artifacts. We are the artifacts. We are the artifacts. They could keep some remnants of their history over there. Keep all that remnant. We don't need to break it up. See, so there could have been grace shown by your so-called family, right? Your so-called African family could have said, here, fool, keep this. Keep this, fool.
So do you think how do you think that makes us look in the world's eyes when they see us doing shenanigans like this?
Well, the international United States is a European is the United States of Europe. Like we live in the under the auspices of the United States of Europe. All of these, or the United States of immigrants, all these immigrants bank on the fact that we're ignorant as hell. So they're very happy about us being dumb. I mean, all they can do is pat themselves on the back and say, "Job well done, chap." Because the goal is to keep the indigenous people as dumb as hell so that we won't realize what they're doing to us. And they can keep taking and taking and taking from us. Right?
I mean, that seems to be the case because it's like, I mean, simple stuff. The black African American just don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Simple stuff. And look at
They
you
don't
like
want
you crazy. And every time you ask them to, make what you're saying make sense, they all of a sudden disappear and don't want to talk. Or they
mm,
get belligerent and get mad. And then if you say, ask a African, they don't even do that.
wow.
Do you think it's because they're embarrassed that they've been made a
Yeah.
fool? Because that's what I'm thinking.
On the
They
nose. You got it on the nose. That's right. Embarrassment.
Yeah,
Ashamed.
and they
Yeah. And
will
they don't
do
want to be wrong.
anything
They don't want to be wrong at all.
and will do anything to cover up the lie.
Cover up the lie. Cover it up. Yeah. What you got to say, Nick? Oh, excuse me. No.
I've been
Hello.
because I've been thinking about this trip, but
Oh.
I mean, obviously the indoctrination worked in a way that she wasted her time trying to fight and keep a statue, and they was like, you not them Africans, and they sent that shit back. So it's a hard lesson that she, I guess, had to learn, that she still thinks she African, probably, you
Yep.
know. But is she gonna go
Never
out her way to do this
disappoint.
again? Probably not. But certain things like this can be avoided. But I feel like people like to go with a narrative, a certain indoctrination, things that are known facts, but they aren't really known facts or facts. It's just propaganda, specific marketing and movies that confuses you to think that. But did your people tell you were African at all? Like, do you eat certain nasty foods that they eat? You don't. So obviously, this is like a Pan African gone rogue, and they paid for it, and they got embarrassed.
Mm, that's right. They paid for it and got embarrassed. I mean,
So, so
it's sad.
will that story make news headlines?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the news is pretty boring, so it's possible. But the reality is, the problem with it is, the real news of it is that you trying to fight somebody who you claim is you, right? You trying to fight to keep what you claim is you, but the people that is considered the real body that is you says, yeah, you ain't me, and I'm taking my shit back. You ain't me.
So how did this all this take place? How did all this conspire? So it was a story that they were taking everything back to Africa and some Negroes just
What's
jumped in
that?
and said,
Yeah, so there's a whole thing of repatriating, the museum stuff back to the original people. And I guess this little advocacy group was like, nah, you shouldn't dare going to be sending this back to Africa. This shit belongs to the indigenous Americans.
how does that make sense?
Well, she really believes that she's an African. So therefore she's like, this stuff needs to stay here because it's part of my heritage. Because I'm a real African, yo.
Is it something about the Negro, Black African American here in America, that when they hear something in their mind doesn't pop up and say, "Man, that don't make sense," or or asks a question or something. It's like somebody just says something and we automatically swallowing it and it becomes a part of us. That's what I'm seeing. It's like, it's like the guys that say, "Oh, the man had a seed to the baby." And they just swallow it and believe it, not thinking nothing else. Is that something innate in most people here or what? Where they don't, their thinking cap doesn't light up or anything. They don't think and say, "Nah, that's bullshit." What is that? And do you think that the people who tell these stories know that they really trying to damage you for the rest of your life? Because they know you're gonna pass it on to your kids. Because I just can't see all of these stories that these Negroes are coming up with. You ask them what they talking about and they don't even know. But we'll stick with the story. Copper Color Lifestyle says it's the fluoride in the water. I mean that
Mm,
could be.
yeah.
That could be.
Hmm.
It's kind of like when people talk about, by now nobody knows not to eat at McDonald's. You don't know. You don't know to read the label on the foods. You don't know, or are we just that greedy and hungry and starving? What is it? You would think, because I've heard one time, if you know better, do better. I'm sure you heard that before. And it seems like African America don't want to know nothing. What they know is all there is to know. And you've watched your mother go through it, your grandparents go through it, your great grandparents go through it, the same thought pattern, and you're insisting that we keep that same thought pattern. Make it make sense. How is that possible? So do you think it's something that is innate within us to just believe bullshit? Don't even question it. What is that?
Hmm. What is it?
From what it seems like, because I ask a person a question, they'll say something, and I'll just question it, and they just automatically get mad, or they'll run away from the question and talk about, well, what
Oh,
you
you getting
doing?
on there? Oh, there it is. Yeah. You there?
Yeah,
Hello? Okay.
yes. So is it
Well,
something that's innate in us, or the majority of
yeah,
people?
we want to be right and we want to believe and people that we respect, and we don't respect ourselves.
So you say no respect for yourselves.
No respect for yourself.
So don't you have, when you're in the bed at night, you're tossing and turning, don't thoughts and ideas cross your mind? What you're gonna do tomorrow, how the kids are doing, how the grandkids are doing. Hey, my cousin's birthday was today. Don't you get those kind of thoughts going through your mind?
Sure, sure. I
How can we
do.
just turn that off? Don't even, or is it the ability? Okay, so you know when babies are born and they stick that thing up the nose to, I guess, pull the fluid out of the nose or whatever. Do you think something happens at birth? Is it the shots?
Maybe, maybe some,
I mean, see, I mean, because
maybe
this is
it's the
real.
vaccination.
You said what?
Vaccinations.
Because it's like simple stuff the majority of people just don't get. And they'll go with the dumb shit forever. I know people that have gone to their grave thinking this whole African story is real. I met a African in Los Angeles, African American who taught African American studies at one of the universities in LA. And when I asked her, how did she know she was African? You know what she
Who
told
told
me?
her that?
No,
Hmm.
that's what she, so no, it's like what you said earlier. They're paid. She was a teacher teaching this stuff. I mean, she retired from university teaching this stuff. And when I asked her, who in Africa does she know? She didn't know nobody. She didn't know nobody. So
Mm-mm.
how could you teach all these kids? It reminds me of the Black Panther story because it's all interwoven. That Black Panther story, all that stuff, and this African stuff, that's all interwoven. And people really and won't even do no research on, I mean, simple research on the group. Check out the structure of the group. Check out who was in the group. I mean, the hierarchy. Not asking, well, how did all the kids get killed, but the adults went on to get jobs in the government and the university? I mean, simple stuff like that. You would think an 8-year-old would ask those questions. So Curtis says it's religion and education. Folks' minds are completely brainwashed. I mean, so how is it? So didn't you used to believe something? I mean, I was for the Africa story too. But when you hear something or you ask yourself the question, it just don't make sense and it keeps ticking at you. I believed in Santa Claus at one time when I was a kid. Then something told me to go to the window, look out the window, and see if your dumb ass see any reindeer flying overhead. It you know, it showed me that the whole story was bullshit. You mean, let's say it's 100 million black folks African. They don't question each other on anything. Everybody just goes with the story. When you see what's happening right in front of your eyes. Is that really what's going on? Africans don't come over here and pair up with you. The women I see, the sisters that I see around here, or who I hook up with and talk to and have relationships with, they don't look like African women. They far away from African women as you are against Korean women. Nothing looks alike. No cultural sames. Like you say, food. So I remember in that movie Roots, the people on the boat was eating grits. We don't question stuff like that when we hear it. No. So is it meant? So is it? So when we say, "Oh, they doing us to us," they're doing this to us. Is it that they're not doing anything? We're doing everything to ourselves. So Curtis says our folks laugh at their elders who told them they were Indians. So here's another thought. So do you think all these people, who are in social media, who have a voice, who on these platforms are kind of like modern day Marcus Garveys? They put these people up to speak, and these people aren't even from here, or like Stokely Carmichael, or like Louis Farrakhan. These people are foreigners coming over here pushing this bullshit, and we follow it. So I think that's the main, that's one of the things well, I already look into it, but that's what it seems like is happening. We believe anything that comes out of the mouth of foreigners, especially if you talk like this and the centrifugal movement of if you have that type of diction in your speech, we fall for that. And to me, it makes it seems like it pushes the youth back further and further and further. They never know nothing. The youth don't get anything because the ones that's in front of them leading them is stuck on this dumb shit that, damn, you should have figured this out when you was a kid. And we don't. So what does that do to the children? So, so the African story first hit from when I got it was in the 1960s, the movie Raisin in the Sun. Shit, it's 2025 now. What's that, 65 years later? Think about that. 65 years later, the kids born in 2025, they're going to get the story that their people are from Africa. We waking up? For real? Teachers are still teaching this in school. College students are learning this. Is there a lot of people learning? Yes, but the majority. So you say they're getting paid. They're paid to keep us dumb. What are some other ways that you're seeing that's happening? Wingapo, Nikki, Stratton, how's everybody doing tonight? Thank you for joining us. So, Lisa, what are some other ways that these stories and these ideologies are being put away or being put out? Can you hear me? Am I coming across? Could you guys press one? in the chat if you can hear me, because it doesn't seem like my mic is on. 8. Yeah, you guys can hear me great. Thank you, Copper Color Lifestyle. So that's the story. That's the story that we want to talk about tonight. You ain't Nigerian food. So these people are being paid to keep us stupid. And I'm not saying all. No, of course it's not all. And then when you get this information, the people that are giving you the information, contact them and ask them what they're talking about so you can get a clear understanding of what's going on. Because I'm seeing a whole bunch of stuff, still calling yourself Black Indians. There are no Black human beings. When have you seen somebody the color of your shoes? Never. But we just keep using that term. And we'll teach it to the kids and grandkids, not knowing it's a term used to degrade you. Really? How come, on some of these platforms, you can't say white, you have to say white tea? How come it's not against the law or whatever that is for them to call you Black and you're not Black? We don't even question that. Whatever you say, boss. Shouldn't Black be turned a derogatory? Shouldn't that be derogatory and hurtful to the African American, even though you were called Black before you were called African? Huh? We don't question it. As a whole, as a group of people, we don't question that stuff. And this is what kind of head start are you giving your children? You still call the institutions that you go to Black colleges, Black universities. That doesn't say anything to you that you call yourself Black, like you a stain on the ground. We just go with it. You've never seen nobody Black ever, yet you use that term against yourself. Is that a cold word to let other people know that these are some idiots? Is it? Because it sure seemed like it. Because, like I said, let's take 1960. How far have we come, really? How are all these people, Indians, people from Nepal, all over the world, coming to your home, slapping the shit out of you, and you just don't say nothing? This is the so-called Black African American. And you can go to where they live and do what they're doing over here. You know what the Black African American says? So, I don't want to go over there. You can go over to their universities over there and get a job teaching their kids anything. Yet, they come over here and teach your kids anything. And guess what you do? Suck, swallow, beg for another load. Am I lying? Am I lying? So you get mad because you hear it, but it's the truth. I mean, these are people 50, 60, 70 years old. They got grandchildren. They don't care. Do you think we'll ever get out of that? Do you ever think we'll stop that? Uh Indian, I don't. Did the people call themselves Indian? That when these people came, that the people here Hey, say, hey, I'm an Indian. Hey, I'm black. Hi, I'm an African American. What did the people say that they were? We don't even question that. What boss said I was, that's what I am. Isn't that how it goes? Isn't that what we believe? It kind of reminds me of, when you growing up and your parents want you to go to church and you don't go to church and they put you out of their house because you don't believe what they believe. I know everybody in the chat has came across that before in their lives. Is it brainwashing? That seems like that's too simple. Or is it that most of the people are from other places? I mean, which is it? Because you would figure if your mama was born in 1940 here, you would go back since your grandmother was carrying you. Most of us don't believe that. We don't know because we've been taught all this other stuff. Since your grandmother was carrying your mother and you were developing in your mom too, just not as far as along. Your grandmother was carrying you too. You can't communicate back that way? No. You don't ask yourself what was the spiritual ideologies that the people had here before the immigrants came? No. African Americans don't question that. Don't even think of it. Matter of fact, think you a fool if you think of it. Isn't that isn't that what's passed down all the time? Or is it that TV? I think that could be it. The TV. You ever call somebody and the TV is blaring? Blaring. What's that about? We don't question it. I saw somebody buying an 80-inch screen. What's that about? So there are some ways, bio digital convergence. We don't even talk about things like that. We don't talk about the clouds overhead, the chemtrails overhead, the barium, the strontium. We don't talk about that, what we're breathing in. Shouldn't that be a concern? Shouldn't we understand how the body works? You think it, you say it, you do it. We don't we don't care about that. We don't look at that. We don't pass that stuff on to our kids. The majority of African Americans don't even look up and see what's going on overhead. These are truths, y'all. These are truths. I know you don't want to hear it. You don't believe in it. These are truths. When your kids ask you questions, you never have an answer. Never. Did you make it back, Lise? No. So enough of me yapping, but there's some things you got to think about. You got to share with your family. You got to share with your elders because remember, there's no such thing as death, y'all. You take your body off like you do your drawers. There's something in you that's called a spirit that's breathing. Your nose doesn't breathe. It's just the instrument that takes in the consciousness. Y- Your chest doesn't make your heart beat. That's you in there doing whatever, being mesmerized by all this bullshit that's going on. That's you. You're not a human. Human is just what you experience this through legs, arms, and stuff. You see pictures in your mind. You hear other thoughts in your mind. Your ears are just the instruments for you to hear sounds out here. We don't know that. We don't know the spiritual practices of the people that were here before the immigrants. No, don't even care. Don't even ask. Ask a Christian. Do this. Every one of y'all do this. Ask a Christian, what were the spiritual practices of the indigenous people here before the Europeans brought Christianity over? And look at the look on their face before they say anything. Look at the look on their face. Ask them. I'm sure many of you know. What are the spiritual practices? We'll talk about it next time. We won't talk about it now because when you give Black African Americans information, they fuck it up. They don't try to get clarity on what they heard because many people just hear it for the first time. They take it, what they hear, and add on what they've been taught to it, and it screws the whole story up. Like you got people calling themselves Aboriginal. Huh? Don't know what prefixes are, don't know what suffixes mean. Don't try to get no clarity on it. Just take it and run with it. Run to the kids with it, run to your mama with it, confusing them even more than they were before you got there. Great, Great Wolf said they frown quick. Exactly. Just ask them something. Say, hey, yeah, before the Europeans got here, what were the spiritual practices of the people that were here? They should know, because if they're indigenous, they were practicing those. I'll give you a hint. It's all wrapped up in nature, which you'll understand. And I know you see that the so called Black African American hates nature, right? Let's be honest, tell the truth. Because when you lie, you just going backwards. So, and what I mean by backwards is like tomorrow, you're going to do something different, or you're supposed to do something different, you're supposed to think different. You go back yesterday, you're gonna stay there. And many of us have been there the past 60, 70 years. We still believe the things that we were taught when we was 5 years old. Haven't advanced a step, and teach that to your children, to your grandchildren. And I think it's because you don't want to be lonely. Don't see, you try to listen to one person, a group of people, and don't realize that all these immigrants are coming over here. They all band together to be against you. You beat the shit out of each other, dog each other out, thinking you're gonna win. It don't work that way. It never does. So Check out all the people who you worship, who you hold on a pedestal, who you believe in, all of them. Just ask them simple questions. Ask them simple questions. So here's something that I get to students. Somebody asked me, why do you think Malcolm X was killed? Say, you asking me, or you want to go with the story that's given you? It's just my opinion, and I'll share it with you guys. See, why do you think Malcolm X was killed? I'm like, first of all, you got to notice when he got out of here. He was about 40 years old. And it's my belief when you're 40 and you haven't learned shit, you ain't going to learn nothing. So this is my position. He was killed because he found out. This is just my thought. I haven't heard this from nobody. Nobody else has said this. This is something that I thought of, looking at it. So when you're 40, you start to learn and question everything in your life. And I know the story was, oh, he blasted on Elijah Muhammad because Elijah Muhammad had so many women. That's what ministers do. That's what pastors do. And I'm sure it was way worse back then than it is now. And no, that's not what I think happened. Well, what do you think happened, Mr. Davis? I think that he finally realized that the heroin that was wearing the communities out, they were part of the group that was pushing the heroin. Oh my no. I'm like, yeah. I mean, is it that hard to believe? Why would you say that? Well, wasn't Fard Muhammad, wasn't he arrested several times for pushing heroin in the community? And who would he get to push it? People who were always in jail. Who was always in jail? The people in the Nation of Islam. I mean, this shit is not hard to figure out. And I think Malcolm X knew that. And what he had children, little children. He was like, nah, I can't do this no more. And they got rid of him, and they told you, and this is how we stay stuck. Whatever the media says, we do no thinking, we do no talking amongst each other. We don't listen to the people in the community ever. Go to Detroit and some of them uh older cats. Listen to some of their stories. Go talk to people. Go learn something. Because the truth is always smothered. It's never put out. All they give you is lies. And like we were asking earlier, isn't that all we believe in? Talk to these people. Talk to these people that are, well, you can talk to. I'll tell you who you start off first, talk to. These homeless vets, talk to them. Ask them what they witnessed when they were in the military. I'm talking the ones that look like they got to reckon with something. The cats that be on the streets talking about, man, I went over here to these other countries and helped kill they people out. Now they surrounding my mama. The African American doesn't think like that. Thank you for your service. That's the kind of shit we tell our children, knowing that they done went over. Ain't been no war here. Only war been over here is you warring against yourself. And we try to pretend like that didn't happen. Could you imagine the people we would have here if we wouldn't killed people out in the 60s, 70s, and 80s over a crack rock? Can you imagine what our population would be? Many can't because I don't believe in that. I don't believe in thinking. I ain't got to think if I want to. You don't tell me what to do. That's what we are. Imagine the lives killed in the 80s. Where would their children be today? Where would their grandchildren be today? What you call Black and African American, they don't even think about that. I'm sure the ones who got injured by that thinks about it, but the majority of people, they don't care. Bring them out the womb, cut that umbilical cord off before they get out the womb. Not that quick. Stick some Similac down their throat. You will have them. I don't like my baby to breastfeed. My breasts hurt. For real, cuz. This is the African American. The African American is not nothing created by nature. It's created artificially. It's given artificial milk right out the womb, artificial sounds. If you think what you're listening to is music today, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. Computer generated thoughts isn't a brother who's been playing the instrument since they were 8 years old and now they're 25. It's not the same. I know many of us think so. It's not. So we're coming up on the end of the hour. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, listening to us tonight. And remember, these people, you're not Nigerian. I mean, many of you may be. Matter of fact, and I said I was going to start doing that because, when a person say there's something, isn't it an old saying or, something that the ladies used to say? When a person tells you there's something, believe them. Do that. So when these cats say they Africans, remember a lot of these cats that were going to these universities and in these Black Panther groups and all these, they got with Africans. You had some cats move to Africa. A lot. They are. Let them be that. But you simply be yourself. That's all you got to do. Where's your mama from? Where your grandmama from? What were the minerals where they were from? What were the minerals like? That has something to do with you. What was the plant life like? Doesn't that have something to do with you? You don't even care. We look at life how other people tell us to look at it. You don't look at it from how you used to set it, that you had it set up, what you had built. Won't even think about it. Don't even talk to the people in your family about it. So we're at the top of the hour. Know it's getting late. I know everybody got to do their thing tomorrow. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. And we will see you later on in the week. You guys have a good night. Peace.